everybody. I'm Amir. I'm a chiropractor, and I'm here with my friend Pastor R. Dallas Green, and we just thought we'd have a little conversation today about what innate intelligence is and what it means to the layperson, what it means from a Christian standpoint, what it means from a medical standpoint. And so personally, like I said, I'm a chiropractor, and I am passionate about making sure people don't get sick. So not just how do we fix it when something goes wrong or when we get sick or when we have a disease, but how do we prevent all of that? You know, we're great about early detection. We're putting people on medication earlier to treat things, and all of that is great, and we're testing things and detecting things earlier and earlier. But how do we prevent disease? Meaning, how do we achieve true wellness? And what does the Bible have to say about that? Which is why we have Pastor R here. So, Pastor R, why don't you introduce yourself?
Well, my name is R. Dallas Green, and I'm the senior pastor of the Grace Community Church. And my great interest too is in wellness, and especially soul wellness. You know, Jesus was at the poolside beside Bethesda, and there was a number of sick people who were there. And one had been sitting for a long time waiting for the waters to be stirred. Jesus said to him, "Do you want to become well?" Which I've always found an intriguing question that Jesus would ask of this man, who had been paralyzed for some 38 years.
Right.
And he asked, "Do you want to become well?"
Yeah, that's interesting. Who would say no to that?
I'd say yes.
Absolutely. Probably he was asking because he said, "Then why don't you get in the water?" Because isn't he the one who said, I keep waiting for my turn.
Yes.
And someone gets ahead of him, and someone jumps ahead of him.
I'm not quite as quick as I used to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, you know, so what we should do is define wellness, because wellness is not just the absence of disease. Wellness goes beyond that. You know, I could be someone who has no disease, but I don't have the flexibility to bend down and tie my own shoelace. I don't have the strength to pick up a 40-pound suitcase out of the trunk of a car. And when I go up one flight of stairs, I'm out of breath already. Do I have wellness? No. All I have is absence of disease. There's no disease, but there's definitely not wellness. So how do we define wellness? How do we measure that wellness? What are your thoughts?
Well, Jesus, too, we get into the wellness of one's soul. And the word, in the Hebrew, is the word shalom, meaning peace. Not only the absence of war, but the presence of God in a person's life, the well-being of soul.
Wow. Exactly.
He's with us.
Exactly. So it's a multidimensional approach where it's not just the human body, but it's the soul that occupies that body that needs to be well. In fact, I'd go as far as saying wellness really begins with the soul. You know, in chiropractic, we have a saying that health comes from above down and inside out, meaning health is expressed from above down and inside out. So that can be interpreted in multiple different ways, but from an anatomical standpoint, without the brain, we don't have anything else, right? And so information, electrical impulses, mental impulses go from the brain through the spine to the various parts of the body, and they flow life.
Yes.
So it's from above down, inside out, and that's how we interact with our environment as well.
Yeah, so we're multifaceted beings. We're mind, body, and soul.
Right.
Yeah, we have a mind given to us from God, a body entrusted to us to be stewards of, and then a soul, which is kind of the house of our emotions and our choices and our conscience. All these pieces that are part of our soul.
Right. So if someone is pursuing wellness, and all they do is start exercising and eating well, will they truly achieve wellness just by doing it? I don't think so either. And that's probably something that our viewers could really benefit from is, then what do I do? Then how should I approach wellness, and how do I go about preventing illness and going to the next level in my health?
Yes, optimum health.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
What do you think, Dr. Amir, the essence of life is in terms of this life that God's given us? What makes up life?
That's fantastic. I heard a great quote by Dr. Fred Barge. He wrote a book called Life Without Fear, and in the book he gives a definition of the word life from purely a philosophic, scientific standpoint. He says, life is the expression of intelligence through matter. This table doesn't move, doesn't interact, and doesn't react. It's just there, so it's matter. Now, if this table all of a sudden said, "Stop leaning on me," and moved away, that's the expression of intelligence in that matter, which is how we view life. Now, where does that come from? How do we measure that? We can only say there needs to be only one source. It can only be one source, right? Which would be our Creator, who breathed, right, life into us.
Yeah, so Adam originally was dirt, right, the ground,
Correct.
The elements of the earth, and the Lord God formed him into a man, then breathed into his soul the breath of life. He became a living soul. So his life was given to him from God, and that energy that came into him.
So we need to know how to take care of that,
Yes.
because that's the premise. That's the foundation of everything else. I know for a fact that if my soul doesn't seem at peace, there can't really be health in the body.
And Jesus said, "My peace I give unto you, my peace I leave with you. Not as the world gives, I give unto you." So Jesus wants us to experience this deeper level of peace, shalom, well-being of our souls.
Right. It's fantastic. So what advice would you give someone who says, I'm doing all the right things, and I'm not getting well?
Well, they're probably measuring their well by their sense of peace or their sense of joy. That they're missing something crucial in their life that's giving them peace. There's a strain in a relationship, there's a angst at work, aggravation with driving, whatever, that's creating this sort of unhappiness of their soul. Or they're just discontented about life. There's something they want they don't have, and until I have that thing, I will never be content. So they set themselves up to be discontented or without peace.
Got it. So, and then that lack of peace is probably, from a physiological standpoint, is preventing certain activities from happening in their body. We know for a fact that our thoughts change our hormonal makeup. Certain hormones get released when we're angry. Different ones get released when we're happy. Different ones get released when we're in love. Complete different scenarios, and some of them actually promote health and wellness and healing, while others can stop it. For example, in a scenario of fight or flight, where I'm being chased by a pack of hungry wolves, and naturally I'm scared. At that point, I won't be able to stop and take a nap. My body won't allow me. I'll stay awake. It's the same thing that happens when someone will tell me, "Doc, I was so tired, I couldn't fall asleep." It doesn't make sense. How can someone be too tired to fall asleep? It's the same as saying, "It was raining so hard that I didn't get wet." Not possible. So you're being chased by the proverbial pack of hungry wolves, and your body says, "I need to not only stay awake, I need to be alert, and I need to be running right now." But there are no wolves. It's in our mind, it's in our heart, it's in our soul. It's that chasing the wind scenario of, I'm not happy and I need to do something else, or something's out to get me, or there's no peace.
Yes.
Right? And when there's no peace, then you can't calm down. Now, physiologically, when we're in fight or flight, what happens? Pupils dilate, heart rate goes up, blood pressure goes up. Blood vessels in your hands and feet constrict, so does the blood vessels in your face. That's why you turn pale white when you're scared, right? Hands get cold, feet get cold, the blood goes to the bigger muscles so you can react. Your digestion stops, so does your immune system, because you want all hands on deck to handle the emergency. And when you realize that pack of hungry wolves went somewhere else, you're safe, it should all go back. But if you're constantly in a state of anxiety and worry and stress, no peace, you stay in that state. That's a very unhealthy state. So think about that. If we put it all together, that's the person who has dry eyes, dry mouth, dry skin, cold hands, cold feet, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, indigestion, constipation, right? And they get frequent head colds and sinus infections, especially during the winter, because they're in fight or flight. their immune system is shut down, their digestion is slow, they keep getting sick, they can't process their food properly. They're the ones that, even if I'm in a room where there's heat, my hands are always cold, my feet are always cold. It's because that blood flow is not going properly. Now you can put them on a medication for their blood pressure, give them another medication for the cholesterol, give them antibiotics for their sinus infection, and give them a stool softener for the bowels, and put all of those things and treat them all separately, or you can go to the soul, right, and say, hey, no, you know what, we need to find some peace, and once you have that, then the rest of it is going to start working properly. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, Jesus said, "Come unto me, all ye who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. For my burden is light and my yoke is easy. You'll find rest for your souls." So Jesus wants us to carry a light burden, not a heavy burden,
Right.
and an easy yoke. I remember one time in my life when I was just hyper vigilant. I had just had surgery, and I felt as if I was fighting for my life. And I can remember thinking that all of my life energy is being preserved in staying alive. There was an infection I was dealing with and uncertain prognosis. I was just worried sick.
Right.
And so my body was in this fight mode of just fighting to stay alive. And I can remember surrendering that situation to God.
Wow.
And saying, like, I am not in control, and God, you are, and this is your battle to fight for me.
Right.
You determine the outcome.
Wow.
So I can remember just relinquishing control and finding this peace that passed all human understanding as I surrendered to Him.
Wow, that's fantastic. And what if that was common practice in our hospitals and in our doctor's offices, and part of the prescription that we would get for everything? Do you think we'd have better results with our healthcare?
Yes. Holistic health.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Because we can't approach something that is multidimensional with a one-dimensional approach.
Yes.
It's never going to work. Now, I believe that the human body has self-healing powers. So there's the philosophy that the human body can self-heal and self-regulate, and then there's the philosophy that the body does not have the ability to self-heal and self-regulate, that it needs help from the outside. These two philosophies are in contrast of each other, where the philosophy that says I can self-heal and self-regulate says unless something interferes with my processes in my body, as long as I have the proper nutrition and environment and mental, physical, and chemical environment is right, spiritual environment is correct, then I should thrive. Just like a plant that starts to wither, if we just make sure it has water and proper soil and sunlight, it should come back to life. It should thrive, it should do, and it should continue to grow. So that's one philosophy, because and we see examples of this where if I cut my hand, you'll see all of a sudden the body mobilizes cells and molecules to rebuild that, and clotting factors go to work and the blood clots. The blood vessels constrict, the skin starts to grow together, and it seals with scar tissue, and you go, that's fantastic. We didn't have to put glue on it. We may need stitches, but the stitches don't grow the skin together. You don't need to leave the stitches on permanently. Once it heals, you can take the stitches out. So that's an example of the body self-healing. A broken bone, same thing, you immobilize it. Or you may even put a rod next to it and screw it in, but eventually that bone grows together. Now, while that bone is growing, the other bones in the body don't grow, just that one grows.
Yes.
So there's an intelligence in the body. That's what we call innate wisdom. That intelligence is what expresses through matter to be defined as life. That intelligence is in all of us, I believe. Now, so then you go, why are there cases where we need medication? Why are there cases where we need antibiotics? Why is it? Well, that could, if you subscribe to the school of thought that there is innate intelligence in the human body, well then you say if we need outside interference, it's because there's outside interference that debilitated us in the first place, right? But if we subscribe to the philosophy that the human body will just start to fall apart over time, and things will start to break, even if it's in the perfect environment, mental, physical, spiritual, and chemical environments are all perfect, it'll still get sick. then in that case you say, well, yeah, absolutely, we're going to need to put medication in there, and when the body loses control of its own blood pressure, then we need to artificially control that blood pressure, and when a tumor starts to grow, then we need to go and excise it and all those things. So I can't tell you which philosophy is correct. I can't prove one over the other either, because there's plenty of proof on both sides. You go, well then, I know the human body is self-healing because it heals itself. Yeah, but walk through a hospital and tell me how many of those people would have survived without medical intervention.
One physician said to me, Dr. Amir, that medication is what I give the patient until the body heals itself. So in his view, at least, he was sort of a stopgap measure to help that person medically with medicine, prescription, believing that someday the body would heal itself.
Right. And see, I believe it will as long as the cause of the disease has been removed. Right? So we talked about the person who's being chased by the proverbial pack of hungry wolves, right? As long as the wolves are there, his blood pressure is going to be high. When we put that person on medication to lower his blood pressure, the medication will lower the blood pressure. But the catecholamines that get released in his blood system are constantly being released because the brain is telling the body, we need a higher blood pressure because we need to run away from these wolves. That person will never get off those medications. He will stay, she will stay on the blood pressure medication for the rest of his or her life, unless someone comes and removes what's causing it, which is remove those wolves, remove the impression or perception of wolves chasing that person, and now all of a sudden there's no need for that. Catecholamines will stop being reduced, and the body won't keep pushing that blood pressure to go up.
The condition Jesus spoke about being at rest or at peace. The soul is at peace. Now there's no fear of some harm coming to me on the outside.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind of deliberately entering into the rest that God would give you,
Yes.
versus feeling as if the pack of wolves is chasing you.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Now think about this. A couple years ago, do you remember the Ebola outbreak?
Sure.
And several people died. Do you know that 50% of the people who were infected by the Ebola virus did not die, survived? Now this is probably the deadliest virus there is, but half the people didn't die. No one in America died. No one in the Western world died from it. So you go, then if the virus alone is enough to kill someone, then you would think every single person exposed to the virus would have died. But but you add the virus plus some other type of interference, a weakness of some sort.
Yeah. Nutrition.
Now that virus can take root, and it can be nutrition, it can be spiritual, it can be physical, it can be psychological, but something. And usually it's more than one thing. It's the person, patients who come to us and they'll say, Doc, I went and shoveled some snow and I threw up my back. And I say, didn't you shovel snow last week when we had the bigger snowstorm? And he'll say, yeah. And I said, the week before that, didn't you shovel snow and that didn't throw out your back? Correct. And before that, you were raking leaves and that didn't throw out your back. So what was different this time? I don't know, Doc. Well, let me ask you, how are you doing? What was going on the night before you went out to shovel snow? Were you doing well? What was going on in your house? Oh, my teenage daughter was driving me crazy. We got in a big fight and we were screaming at each other. And what'd you have for dinner? Oh, we had some Chinese food with extra MSG in it, which we know is inflammatory, right? So you've got some psychological stress, right? You also have some biochemical stress, which inflames the body. Then you add the physical stress of shoveling the snow. And now you have a recipe for disaster. He throws out his back. But the other two times probably didn't have a fight with his family, probably didn't eat anything that was inflammatory in his body, so he was able to go out and do that shoveling of the snow. And having your soul ready for life is important. What's a daily practice you would recommend for someone achieving wellness? Let's say they are exercising and eating right. Psychologically, they're taking care of themselves, meaning they're managing their relationships in their life properly, which, by the way, you have to do to be healthy. What's another spiritual? What's a spiritual practice that you would recommend someone do to start moving towards wellness?
No one ever progresses in their spiritual life apart from the study of the Word of God and prayer. The two basic spiritual disciplines are, I have to put myself before God to hear what He would say to me, receive that by faith, and begin to meditate upon those truths, chew them over, ponder them, seeing how that applies to my life, and then pray to the God who's in control of all things, surrendering that which I'm not in control of. I think if I practice reading the Word and praying, I will begin to enter into a greater sense of peace.
That's wonderful. That's great advice. Absolutely. Go ahead.
I want to take it back. So you mentioned that half the people that got Ebola didn't get it. What I've read is that half the people who smoke don't get lung cancer.
That's right.
And so the tobacco companies have argued that since not all people get lung cancer, our tobacco products are not really that dangerous.
That'd be like saying Ebola is not dangerous.
Right.
The fact of the matter is everybody did get sick. Just some of them recovered.
Okay.
And I believe the first puff of smoke of cigarette does make us ill.
So environmentally, if I introduce these pollutants into my body, I'm going to make myself sick.
Yeah, absolutely. You reduce your ability to handle your environment properly. That's what I mean by interference. It will interfere with the life force that's inside of you. Yeah. It will suppress the expression of that intelligence we talked about inside of you. That's the same intelligence that produces the right enzymes in your stomach the way you smell the hamburger. The minute you smell a hamburger, let's say you're not a vegetarian and you like hamburgers, and you smell this hamburger, but you haven't seen it, you haven't tasted it. You don't know where it is, but you were a little hungry, but the minute you smell a hamburger, and the minute you decide, I know what I'll do, I'm going to go get a hamburger. At that moment, everything in your body starts to work. Your pancreas will release the protease and the lipase to be able to digest the protein and fat in the hamburger, and your pancreas will also get ready to release insulin. They won't release it, it'll wait till it's time, and then the acid in your stomach will be exactly at the right pH to digest what you just smelled, even though you haven't seen it or tasted it. So the human body, 20 separate organs work together to digest your food. And when you say digest, most people think, oh, what you do is you take the food, you turn it into energy, and you burn the energy. That's not exactly what happens. You see, your body takes what you put in your mouth, and it changes the molecular structure of what you put in your mouth, and turns it into a whole host of other things. Because not only do you need energy, but you need more skin cells, you need more bone cells, you need more liver cells, things in your body that are regenerating. You need more white blood cells and red blood cells. But thankfully, you don't have to eat those things. Just eat the hamburger, and the body will take it. Those 20 separate organs work together, take that food, and turn it into what your body needs. Yes, some of it will be energy, and some of it will be waste. But the rest of it is going to be building blocks to rebuild parts of your body, regenerate and repair parts of your body. That's that innate intelligence. That's that wisdom that can take a small seed and turn it into a tree. There's wisdom in that. As long as there's life, there's wisdom, there's intelligence in that. That's the creation of God. That's what we haven't been able to truly measure and control. We'll never be able to control it. We just need to work with it. And the best way to work with it is to remove anything that interferes with it. Smoking interferes with the expression of life. That's why you don't have to tell yourself to breathe. To breathe, you remember. You just know. It's pre-programmed. That's that innate wisdom.
That's good, Amir. I think that's when it was to cut.
Fantastic. So bottom line, I believe and you believe that life is a miracle.
Yes.
Absolutely a miracle. It was breathed into us by God. We need to protect it. We need to cherish it. We need to take good care of it. And we need to put it to good use. Yes. And spiritually, like Pastor R just said, we need to read the Word and really dive into it, understand it, and obey it.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Good. How many minutes was that, Amir?